What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability, get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Make your next thing a big one. Today on the program, speaking of entertainers, I got Bill Abernathy. Who's Bill Abernathy? Well, you're going to find out in the next few minutes, so stick around. This week's shows, I have one public show as we break out of this coronavirus quarantine. The Faithful People at the Rab on Friday night. The Rab in Conway, Arkansas. The Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam. They have a full bar, kitchens open, pool tables. In fact, on Friday nights, they have a pool tournament. So if you want to try to make some money playing pool, try your hand at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. And, you know, in the meantime, you could chill out and, hey, sing a song, karaoke on stage at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. That starts at 8 p.m. and we go until about 12:30 in the a.m. Yeah, so come out and play with us over at the Rab, Conway, Arkansas, Friday night. See you there. All right, party people, I got Bill Abernathy. I got him on Skype, so if you're listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to check out the video version, youtube.com/user/keysdan. And, yeah, you can not only hear, but see. But if you're listening to the audio version, that's fine, too. So let's get into it with Bill Abernathy. Skyping Bill Abernathy now. Yeah, you're right in my broadcast software. Bill Abernathy in the house. My goodness. Go. You know, I've been looking forward to this because I've been listening to your music and I'm listening to your sultry sounds. You have a real breathy style when you sing, man. It's just it's like you're telling a story. Well, all right, give the people an idea of who you are, Bill Abernathy, before I give my impressions of you.
Well, really, Dan, it's very simple. I'm a storyteller with a guitar, right? And, you know, I came up appreciating music of some of the great storytelling artists, singer-songwriters of all time. You know, guys like Jim Croce is one of my favorite guys of all time. Stephen Stills, you know, obviously Crosby, Stills, Nash, Jackson Brown, those guys. And I always appreciated the way that they could take their thoughts and translate that into music in a way in which everybody could understand and kind of relate to. So really just a storyteller with a guitar, just telling stories about things that happened to me, or maybe some things that have happened to some friends of mine. That's kind of who I am.
Man, I appreciate a man who can just grab a guitar and go and just take it on the road. Is this something that you've been wanting to do your whole life? I mean, it amazes me. I have, let's see, I have I have 3 guitars at the house. I can play maybe 2 chords. I can, was it two-finger Ted Nugent? I think he doesn't play many chords, but it amazes me that you can move your fingers up and down this neck, these strings, and you come up with music. And you're not only playing other people's music, you're playing your own music, stuff that comes out of your noggin, out of your gray matter. That's double threat. That's even doubly impressive right there, Bill Abernathy.
I don't know about that. I think that I've always said that music is a bit magic, right? Nobody really knows where it comes from. And I think, you know, I heard one interview with an artist that said that music kind of floats around out there in the universe, and every now and then it just reaches down and taps you on the shoulder and say, hey, why don't you take this and go with it? And I kind of feel that way about music. You know, I wouldn't say that, you know, even though I've had, you know, tons of training and experience and all that stuff, that I even know where it comes from. You know, sometimes it just is there. And I'm fortunate enough to, you know, have a guitar handy most of the time and sit down and figure out whatever is in my head and how to translate that onto a guitar. So.
Well, I mean, for the kids that are coming up, you already alluded to it. You've had some kind of training. What kind of training did you have? Has it always been guitar, or was there something else that you started on as a wee little lad?
Well, as a wee little lad of about, I don't know, 8 years old or so, I started learning how to play the guitar. I had a brother who was 9 years older than I, and he taught me folk music, from back in the day, right? And the Peter, Paul, and Mary, and Paul, Simon and Garfunkel, those kind of guys, the guys that were doing the Traverse picking and all that stuff. And he taught me how to do that when I was a little bitty kid. And then I got to where, I was fairly decent at it. And so I took a few lessons. I got lucky that the first guy that I took lessons from was actually quite a good instructor. And he taught me for a long time. And then I took some classes at the Kansas City Conservatory of Music with guitar. I also play piano, or I did when I was a kid. I don't really play it so much anymore. And I actually, my scholarships and stuff for music were all about vocal stuff. So, I think that if you have music in you, it finds its way out, whether it's singing or, playing the guitar or, whatever. So, I was pretty fortunate that my parents gave me the opportunity, to learn how to play multiple instruments and learn how to do quite a few things. So, pretty lucky.
I mean, it sounds like they gave you the tools that you wanted, that you needed. Did you have any other interests when you were in school? Would you play sports, or was it always music? Was it always hey, look at those people playing that great music? And it's all. It seems like it's folk music. And you say your brother was 9 years older playing folk music. My mom turned me on to a lot of those sweet sounds, man. When I was just a little tiny baby DJ, I remember, I guess the first 45 I had was the Bee Gees, but the one that I really remember was Gord's Gold. That one, that record, I think everybody in the suburbs had that record. It came with free samples of Tide. Everybody I knew all the songs on that record, and yes, and Jim Croce and some of the ones that you talked about, but I think that one really was the one that made me feel. I think I had 3 8-track tapes too. It was the Eagles' greatest hits, Stevie Wonder's Superstition, and Steve Martin's Wild and Crazy Guy for some reason. But
there you go.
Those shaped me as a young person. What were your first records? I mean, the ones that your brother gave you, or maybe somebody else might have given you. What's the first thing you're listening to? I mean, besides Sesame Street or maybe kid songs, but maybe those were it. What shaped you?
So you're a DJ, and so you're very knowledgeable about music, right? Mm-hmm. And so my very first 45 that I ever bought in my life was by a group called Zager and Evans, and it was called In the Year 2525. Are you familiar with that? I'm
familiar, man. That's really like a psychedelic, way out there song, and yeah, if I'm remembering it right, it sounds like it's one of those songs that has like several. It goes far. It seems like the early 70s there was, and even the late 60s. I guess that was late 60s, right?
Yeah.
Those songs, they wanted to push so much stuff into that 3 to 5 minutes. So much instrumentalism and musicianship that song would blow your mind. If the kids, they wouldn't understand. Rock and roll is, I guess it's always been a little bit repetitive, but it's even more so these days. Pop songs, you'll say the same thing over and over again. You'll say the same thing over and over again. You say the same thing. What was the name of that song? Oh, the song was called "You'll Say the Same Thing Over and Over Again."
Yeah, that's probably true. I one particular line that I think of when I think of that the Zager and Evans song is everything you think, do, or say is in the pill that you took today. So, yeah, it was a little sci-fi-ish. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, these are things. These are things that a folk singer, that a songwriter. That's a songwriter's song. It's got substance. It's got something to it. I think. Okay, maybe I can liken it. Some of the hip hop artists are coming up with that. Some of the actual ones that really want to tell a story. Well, there's some that are really superficial. But then there's those ones that want to tell a story. So any storyteller, really, those are the best songs to me, because you're not only getting maybe a good beat, maybe something you could dance to, but you're also getting a lesson. You're getting something that's going to make you feel something. And that's what a folk singer does. And is that primarily the box that you live in, the folk genre, or is it country, or you like to go farther out? Maybe you don't want to be in a box.
Yeah, I don't want to be in a box, and thank you for bringing that up. So on all of our projects, we have a what I call a pretty diverse style of music, and we play around in different genres. That's really the value of being a singer-songwriter, is you can write them however you want. And, I'm pretty fortunate that I work with a lot of really high-quality musicians. And so when I come in and say, hey, man, I want to blues this up, that's fun. That's a good day. Or now, hell, we're doing one now that is pure country. I mean, pure country. The only real, what I would call country song that I've ever done anyway. But I actually went out and bought a banjo because it needed that sound in it, and then we have our other songs, like the one that's out now and still tracking, through Spotify and all those places, is called More Than Meets the Eye. And it's more of a rock and roll song. It's got the Eric Clapton type, blues rock licks in it and all that kind of stuff. So the value really of being a singer-songwriter is being able to pick whatever genre you think would be the best to translate the lyric of the song to the listener. And sometimes it's rock and roll. Sometimes it's folk. Sometimes it's country rock. You mentioned the Eagles a little while ago. It just depends on what the song wants and what's going to be the best genre and the best style of music to use to get the message of the song across.
Well, Bill Abernathy, you mentioned it earlier, that you might need to add another adjective to that: independent songwriter. Because when you get chained to a label, and this is the horror story that I've been hearing, maybe not a horror story, labels do have their place, but when you get chained to a label, they start dictating what songs that need to go on this album. Hey, I want to do a country song. No, we're staying over here. We're going jazz. We're going R&B. We're going blues. And this is where you're going to live. We're not going to give you any promotion if you try to get out of this genre. Are you completely independent? Have you always been independent, or do you have a label that you're? And I think we got brought together by the MTS group. What do they do for you?
Michael of MTS does promotions for me. So as far as creativity and what I do musically, it's wide open for me. I do have a label that I work with, but they pretty much let me do whatever I want to do. They do help with some of the the production and that kind of thing, right? But as far as, I was in the studio last Thursday, I guess, and we were working on some songs, and we went from, the banjo song, which is what we call it, or whatever, the banjo song into a song that's very, very much like the biggest hit that I ever had. I had a tune off my Find Away album that was called Goodbye Will Never Come Again, that actually hit #1 in the United States, which was cool, right? But it's one of those finger-picky love song, breathy type of things, because I'm really telling a story, right? And so to be able to work in an environment where you can switch that quickly from one genre to another is something that's really special to me. And I think it's people have told me that it's one of the things that kind of sets me apart, is because I don't play the same style of music all the time. You may get some blues or some rock, or that there's one song that we're working on right now that's got a real jazzy feel to it. So like I said, it just depends. The genre of the song really depends to me on what musicality is going to do the best job of translating the lyric, right, to the song. So obviously I'm not going to do the Ted Nugent 3 power chords and a flash of fingers if I'm singing a really soft love song, right? It's just not going to work, right? So you just have to pick. You just have to pick.
Oh, you might switch it up in the midst of a concert. If they're going to a Bill Abernathy concert, you'll switch it up, and you'll blow minds that way. You start pulling that banjo out, which I did see. I don't do a lot of preparation for these, but I did peruse your social media, and I did watch some of your videos. And man, the banjo we just mentioned, Steve Martin. That man's a banjo maniac.
Yeah.
I love him on the banjo. I love watching him play. I've loved his comedy, and then he pulls out a banjo and just wow, he really can play.
Oh yeah,
wow.
no, he's good. He's good. It was kind of funny, I wrote this song, and it's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek song, right? And I wrote it, and I was just thinking about, I sat down with my guitar, and I thought, well, it's got this country feel to it. Let's put on some country licks. And the more that I played, the more flashback I had to back in the day when I was trying to impress a girl's father. Not necessarily trying to impress the girl, but I was trying to impress her father. And he was a bluegrass guy. And he wanted to know if I could play banjo. So I went out and got a banjo and spent a couple of weeks learning how to play it. I impressed the hell out of him. He really enjoyed it. She dumped me, but, such is life,
Well, that's what that's what guys are put on this earth to do, to impress girls, impress the ladies. But that's highly unusual that you want to impress a lady's father. Hey, there's some cool people that you look up to, and I guess if you get a connection and you want to see, hey, if there's a friendship that can blossom out of it, that's something, man, I might take a little tangent, because psychologically, I don't think men have friends as much as they used to. It seemed like if you watch a show from the 50s or the 60s, dad will come home, or before dad even comes home, he goes and stops off and gets a drink with the boys with his nice suit and tie, with his hat, puts his hat on the bar, has a drink, and talks with his fellas. I don't think people do that anymore. They go straight home, and I know your family is important, but they can't be everything to you. They can't be your best friends, and your wife has to be your lover, your best friend, your confidant, your cook, your cleaner. She's got to be everything to you. Your doctor, But I don't know. I guess I was just thinking about that men don't have friends like they did back in Grandpa's day, maybe, or Dad's day.
I think we do. I think it's just different, right? So I'll use an example from this past week. My oldest friend ever in life's mother passed away, and I went to the funeral. Now, he and I text and call and talk, right? Pretty frequently, but we don't really get together. It's not like, hey, let's go down to the corner bar, and have a beer. It's not something that we do, but we do talk and text a little bit from time to time. And I got to the funeral, and they went through the service and all that. And then after the funeral, he and I were talking, and it was like we had never been apart, right? It was like, I know I haven't seen you for 6 months, but it's just like it was then. I did a show, a benefit show for some friends of mine's kid that was in a car wreck, and some of my old friends from back in the day showed up, and it was like we were never apart, right? We just picked up right exactly where we were, and telling jokes and having a good time, and just being really good friends. So I think that guys have friends. I just think it's different. It's a little different than maybe it was in the day.
I think that says a lot about you, Bill Abernathy, is that you develop relationships that are long lasting, and you can pick up right where you left off, which is great. I think I have one of those myself. I met him back in 84. I was in 10th grade, class of 86 rules. So, but I met him back then, and we don't talk as often as I'd like to. I keep up with him on social media, but old Johnny, when I call him up, it's like we were never separate. So I get your feeling there, but I guess I don't go out unless I'm DJing. Do you go out with your friends if you're not playing guitar, if you're not doing an event, Bill Abernathy?
Sometimes, but not really often. I tend to like to stay in some element of solitude most of the time. So in my 9 to 5 job that I retired from November 17th, yay, I did a lot of talking to large groups, right? And I was always the guy at the front of the room, and I had to talk and do what I do. And then of course, there's the other part of that interaction where you go to dinner with everybody, because you're doing the 9 to 5 gig, right? And I enjoy that. But I actually think that I am, there's a new classification I read about not too long ago, a psychological classification that says you can be an extroverted introvert. And I believe that may be who I am, because I really enjoy solitude. I enjoy being alone. I don't have that need, to be around a lot of people like some folks do. But when I do go out, we have a really good time, and it's not like I'm sitting in the corner cowering. I'm having a good time and telling jokes and all that. But it's just not something that really drives me. I don't make an extra effort, to get together with a bunch of people. I'd really just as soon sit at home and have a conversation one-on-one, much like you and I are having right now. To me, that's as much fun or even more fun than large groups of people.
Yeah, I do enjoy picking people's brains, but if you like solitary, I think last year was the year for you, man. A lot of people were stuck indoors. But it sounds like even your day job, you were doing some kind of performing, sitting up in front of crowds, talking, keeping them engaged, making sure that they were entertained as well as informed. I'm not even sure what the day job was, but that's what you're leading me to believe when you were kind of explaining a little bit. And I'm glad you got out of it, man. The golden years are coming. You're still a young man. You get to go off and do things that you really want to do. What's on the bucket list? I mean, what's the first thing before as you break out of the day job? This is great.
I have some bucket list things, but the first one that I want to do, the big one, the biggest one that I have on my list is I've been fortunate throughout my life to travel all over the world, and I've seen, a million really, really cool things, castles in Scotland and, all over Germany, all over Europe, China, all those places, and I've been lucky to do that. But there's always been one place that I've wanted to go that I've never had an opportunity to go to. And so that is on my bucket list. So once COVID clears and international travel becomes reasonable again and safe, I will go to Machu Picchu in Peru and spend a couple of weeks. It fascinates me. So that's my big bucket list item for retirement. Yeah.
Man, I worked radio in Miami with a Peruvian guy, and he said his favorite part of doing radio in Peru was rock and roll, like 50s style, the 60s style rock and roll. That was big just a mere 20 years ago or so. It was still huge in Peru. So, I mean, things are, I guess other countries you go to and things might be a few years behind, but that in Peru, he said it was 50s, man, and 60s. A lot of Elvis, a lot of Beatles, a lot of that, and he enjoyed it. But man, just the architecture of the Incas and all that area there, that is fascinating. And all right, I was talking to another man named Ethan, and he's really into that architecture, but he kind of opened my eyes to it. The pyramids in Egypt and the pyramids in Peru and all over South America, the blocks are essentially the same, even though they never intersected, or did they? How do we, have you studied any of that before? I mean, what makes you want to go to Machu Picchu?
Because nobody knows how it came to be, right? It's just it's a place that's, far older than a lot of people think it is, and why is it there, and what happened there, and what happened to the people, where'd they go, right? It fascinates me, those kind of things. I've been to, pyramids all over the world and different ancient sites, and it really does just fascinate me, because I think that we have a lot of history in our human race that we have here on Earth, that we have forgotten. And a lot of the learning that came from a lot of that ancient history has gone by the wayside because, it doesn't fit the current narrative or whatever. And it just fascinates me. And I remember I was still 9 to 5, and I was sitting on the top of a pyramid down in South America, and I was on a conference call, right? So I had one of these emergency conference calls while I was on holiday, and I'm sitting on top of this pyramid, and I'm actually on a conference call. And I thought, how wrong is this?
I mean, I guess
I would do that.
Yeah, I remember the early days of cell phones being, I'm from Miami, but being in the middle of New Orleans on Bourbon Street on my little cell phone. I guess this is late 80s, early 90s when I first got my cell phone. And I was like, wow, I'm on a cell phone in the middle of the street, no cord. That was amazing. But now, I mean, you're on top of a pyramid, an ancient pyramid. Who knows how long it's been there? Some people say 10,000 years.
Yeah.
Some people say we've forgotten more than we know now. I guess there's conspiracy, or there's research that says, oh, look at this this drawing. It looks like a circuit board. Could it have been? Could it have been? These mysteries of life, man. I think humans are a lot more diverse than we might think, and the ancient humans were a lot smarter than we give them credit for. I know. I'm going back to Miami again. The Coral Castle that was built supposedly by one guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Use some technology that they still can't figure it out, right?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, those things fascinate me.
It is fascinating. I think the pyramids might be on my bucket list as well, and any pyramids. But what took you all around the world? Was it the day job, or was it music? Have you done music all around the world, or is this holidays that you travel, and do you have somebody that you're traveling with?
Well, the answer to all those is yes. So my 9 to 5 I traveled constantly. There were about 20 years of my 9 to 5 that I didn't have to pay earnings tax in Kansas City because I was never here. And traveled all over the world and had all kinds of really cool experiences, and got to meet a lot of cool people and see a lot of different cultures. Also did some music across the world a bit. Actually, my son lived in the Netherlands for a year, and I went over to see him a couple of times. So the answer to your question is yes. All of those things have taken me, different cool places.
How did baby boy get to the Netherlands? Was he from Kansas as well? I'm guessing. You're always been from Kansas.
He was playing baseball, so he was a baseball player, and all through college, and got an opportunity. Even post-injury that kept him out of major leagues over here. But post-injury, he had an opportunity to go and play ball in Europe. So he signed with a team out of the Netherlands, out of Utrecht, Netherlands, and went over there and played baseball for a year. It was great. It was a great experience for him. Got to travel all over. It was fun.
So you're throwing knowledge out there, Bill Abernathy. A lot of people, different kinds of people listen to this podcast, and some of them might be athletes, and some athletes think that, hey, after college, if I don't make the big leagues, it's done, it's over. Yes, you can make a million, maybe $1 million with the big leagues here in the States, but you can make hundreds of thousands if you just head over to Europe and use your talents there, and they'll be very happy to take your talents. Even in Japan, in the Far East, you might be able to get some work. But man, so your boy was a baseball player, and he went to the what ball?
Yeah, he was a baseball player, and then he got drafted in high school, turned it down, signed with University of Alabama, and went there and had an injury, unfortunately. And then ended his college career at Oklahoma State, and had another injury, unfortunately. And so then he went into coaching, and his injury healed up enough where he could go and play. I mean, no athlete that wants to finish their career in the training room, right? That's not something anybody wants to do. And he got a chance to finish his baseball career on the field, and took it and had a great time doing it. So it was a good thing.
And more gems you're giving, Bill Abernathy, to the athletes that are listening, or the people that wonder how come athletes are paid so much, because they have a short shelf life. You made $10,000 a week for a short amount of time, but your career ended at 27.
Well, I'll tell this to all of the athletes out there. I was a bit of an athlete when I was young, and I played football.
The foosball.
American football. And I unfortunately was a quarterback. And, when you're a quarterback, you run around with this target on your back, right? And everybody hits you. Well, I got hurt and blew a knee and rehabbed it and tried to come back and blew it again. And that's when I figured out how important music was, right? Because, guys, you mentioned it earlier, right? Guys do things to impress girls. That's what they do, right? And so, you play football because it's a lot of fun, but it's also cool because, all the girls think you're a big football star and you got your name in the paper and, all that stuff. And they think it's just great. Well, I can tell you this, after my career with football ended, right, I found out that you can get the same accolades, you could get the same press, you could get the same girls, and it doesn't hurt playing music. There's no pain involved. So do yourself a favor. If you're not 6'5" and 260 pounds of cut, you might pick up a guitar. You might find out it'll work out a little bit better for you.
Come on, Bill Abernathy. Even in high school, the band geeks, the ones that all the football players pulled the little wedgies out. You were the quarterback. You get the cheerleader. Yeah, you're the boss of the team. I think that's where it's at, wouldn't you say? I don't know. I'm just asking. I've never been the quarterback.
And after my injury, I just found that it was a lot more beneficial from a dating standpoint to sit in the middle of the pep club while everybody else was out there getting their brains beat out. So I found that there was value to that for me.
All right. But back then you were playing piano. Were you any kind of a good pianist? Was that something that you could have taken on stage at the time? You said that you've let that go by the wayside lately.
Yeah, no, I played a little bit of keys back in the day, but I found that number one, you can't carry a piano with you,
right?
And you can't carry an electric guitar with you because you got to have chords and an amp and all that. And so I found that just being able to play an acoustic guitar and take it with me wherever I went was really a pretty good gig. So that's really, I love acoustic guitars. I have 13 of them, I think, but they're much more flexible. They're a much more flexible thing. But yeah, I played keys and did all that. But I'm really locked into acoustic guitars for the most part. I have electrics and Les Pauls and all that crap, but most of the time I sit down. It's a guitar that doesn't have to be plugged in. So
well, that's something that impresses me too. People think they ask me, "Hey, how come you had?" Well, when I had records. When I was earlier in the DJ, when I started in '86, actually I was DJing for house parties, but in '86 I got my first paid gig. And how come you keep buying records? Why do you have so many records? Why do you have so many records? Same reason why you have so many guitars. You could only play one at a time, right? Why so many guitars? What was the first one that you got when you were 8 years old, and then why did you leave that one behind? Did it get too small, old, or was it cheap, or what? And then why have you?
Let me ask you a question,
yeah,
Mr. DJ. Right?
Yeah.
How many records did you have that gave you the exact same feeling when you played them?
Absolutely.
Each one was a little bit different, right?
Each one, you are correct.
Each guitar has its own personality, and I use all my guitars, but I use them for different things. Some of them like the more raucous rock and roll type stuff, and some of them really like the really pretty finger picker stuff. I've got 3 12 strings that are all have a different. They all have a different feel. They all have a different personality, and so they match with different songs. Right. So much like an album, it doesn't matter if you're listening to, now I might date myself here, but let's say I'm listening to a Kansas album. Each one of their albums gives me a different feel, though it's the same group. It's the same musicians, right? But each one of those albums has a different feel to it. It's the same with an instrument.
Yeah, I was. I'm not afraid to say I'm 52 years old. I celebrate it. Before I was 50, I thought that there might be a shelf life on the entertainment business. But now, I'm 50. I'll shout it from the rooftops. And like I said, class of '86. But you're talking about records, and man, earlier I was listening to a podcast, and he mentioned Elvis Costello and all his different types of music, and he thought that what was the one that he thought would be his last record, and it was a piece of garbage because the studio just made him use songs that he didn't want. I think it was called The Last Record, or it was something it was more of it had an end feel to it. But there's a man who had different styles. Every record, my personal favorite is Queen. And, every record completely different. Even on the record itself, you had different types of music. So people that don't limit themselves, I'm with you on that. I definitely am with you. But how do you know which guitar to pick up for what song? Is it automatic? You say, "Oh, I'm going to play this song. Oh, I need that X right there." Give me the old number 2.
Necessarily. So, I have a couple of guitars that I use primarily when I write. Okay. And one of them's a 6-string. One of them's one of my weird guitars. It's a 9-string guitar. And
why?
I use those when I write because they're the most comfortable guitar for me to play, right? And so I can experiment on them. I can fool around and do different things. But at some point, the song itself will translate to maybe those guitars or maybe a different guitar. It's all feel. It's a feel thing for me. So even my 12 strings, I have 2 12 strings that are the exact same make in the exact same model. One of them is a 1974 vintage, and the other one is a 2000, I don't know, 18 maybe, right? And they're made out of different wood, and they sound completely different, and they like to be played different ways, right? Not every guitar is pick it up and bang the hell out of it. Some of them just don't do well with that, right? So again, much like I mentioned earlier, the song itself kind of dictates the feel, and once you have the feel, I search for the guitar that can create that noise, that can create that sound, and if I don't have one, I go get one that will. So hence the reason I have so many.
Well, me not being a guitar player, and I'm guessing a 12-string, I have this feeling that a 12-string is a 6-string with double strings on each string, right? On each.
Yeah. Essentially,
that's pretty much it. But I've never heard of a 9-string. Is that more high or more bottom? What can you do with
like
a 12?
A 12-string? The way that it's built, it's like a 12-string. Only there's no octave strings on the bottom 3 notes. So I started playing this because I used to almost always play 12 strings, and 12 strings are great and they sound phenomenal, but they are a beast to tune. And back in the day when I was young and pretty and hard bodied and had long hair, I used to play a lot of festivals and stuff outside, right? Well, when you're outside with an acoustic instrument that's made out of wood and it's humid and it's hot, they don't like that. Right. And so, I would have a guitar tech bring me a different guitar every song because, they just wouldn't stay in tune. And a friend of mine that ran sound for me back in the day called me one day. He was in Nashville, and he called me one day and he said, "Bill, I found you a guitar. I'm shipping it to you." And that's like saying, "Dan, I just found you a wife. She's on the way," right? That's not a marriage. Is one of those things that you can plan,
Oh yeah.
And I thought, well, that's weird, but it showed up, and I sat down and played it. First, I looked at it and I thought, well, this is a weird thing, and then I sat down and played it, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And then I played it, and it's the guitar. It's my go-to guitar. I call it the Mutant because it's a weird guitar, but. It's my go-to guitar. It's been with me all over the world, and I have never once played live that I didn't play that guitar. So
Does it also have the problem that it falls out of tune often? As
No.
I can imagine with a 12-string, that's 6 more strings that you have to keep in line, and they have to sing together, right? They have to be in sync somewhat. A 12-string. Okay, just briefly, the difference between a 12-string and a 6-string. What's the advantage of having that 12-string? Is it a fuller sound? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's octaves. So the first four bass notes, bass strings on the guitar are octaved, right? So you have a G and a high G, and it gives you a much fuller sound. And you can tell. A lot of people think that 12 strings tinkle. They sound tinkly, which is true at some points. But I have one that I call the dude because the dude abides, and he likes to play hard. He likes you to really strum him hard and kind of pound on him a little bit, and he does really great with that. So again, it's just different instruments. But yes, the 9 strings stay. I have 2 of them now, but the 9 strings stay in tune. That's hard to say. The 9 strings stay in tune. That's like a tongue twister, right? They stay in tune far better than the 12 strings do, particularly if you're in an environment where that you don't have a controlled temperature and humidity.
Well, I'm guessing that you're primarily a solo act. Is it something that you could take on stage, have that full sound, and play any song on, or is it geared towards certain types of music? These different guitars.
Well, like I said, each guitar has a personality. Yeah. So typically, when I was touring last year, pre-COVID, one of the few guys that actually got a tour in before COVID hit.
January was great.
Yeah, no, it was freaking great. It was wonderful. I had a great time. But it was a challenge for me, to be honest with you, because I only took 4 guitars. And that was hard for me because not only guitars have personalities, but I play in multiple different tunings, right? So there's the standard guitar tuning, and then I have like 9 different other tunings that I use, and it's one of the reasons why I have so many guitars. They're tuned a certain way, right? And that was a bit of a challenge for me, to change tunings and stuff on stage. So it was fun. It was fun. But
well,
I did really good.
Yeah,
I had friends that were very concerned about me because I was only going to be able to take 4 guitars. They were very nervous for me. So.
Where was that tour? How far did you go with 4 guitars?
4,300 miles. So I went from Kansas City to Houston, and then to Austin, then St. Louis, Missouri, back to Kansas City, then to Denver, Boulder, Vail, a couple other places in Colorado. Ended up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So
did you stay on the ground on this one? Was this all road trip, or was there airplanes involved?
Well, I don't fly my guitars, so
that's what I was getting at. I don't know how guitars travel, how musical instruments travel, or do they travel that well?
Yeah, when I play shows, and I do, when I play shows that are fly in, fly out, I typically rent an instrument to play.
How does that feel? That's like getting a pro, like a lady of the night.
Yeah, it's kind of like dating, going out with your best friend's wife, right? So it's, but it's interesting because you get to play in different instruments, and a lot of times there'll be luthiers or guitar builders, in the area that'll reach out and ask me to play their instruments, and so that's kind of cool, that you get to play, these custom handmade guitars and stuff. So it works out. It's kind of fun. It's a bit nerve-wracking because you don't know what you're going to get, right? But generally speaking, I've had good experience with that.
Well, the kids just perked up. They're always looking for sponsorships. Are these guitars, when you play them, or did they throw you a couple bones to play their guitar? Like, hey, what are you playing on stage? Oh, I'm playing Jimmy's Axe. And they throw you a couple bones. Is that an opportunity to make a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, a lot of people like that, so if you're playing, some pretty big shows and you're going to get a lot of people watching, and other guitar players, and particularly if you can play a bit, then yeah, they enjoy that. They give you a little something, T-shirt, something. So yeah.
Well, I mean, judging, it sounds like you've got a few years under your belt. I mean, when you were in Kansas starting off, was it house parties and what were you doing to cut your chops? And when did you think that you were big enough to go out and do a solo gig and actually command some dough?
Well, I didn't ever have a chance not to. So I started doing church music, right, when I was a kid. So I was like, I don't know, 12, 13, something like that. And got involved with this group of people that traveled all over the United States. And, we did that whole thing in church camps and, that kind of thing. And some of them were really big. I mean, we played one down in the Houston or Dallas area. I don't remember, it was a long time ago. There were like 5,000, 6,000 people there, right? And so, I started doing that when I was really young. And so, I enjoyed it. And that was fun. And it was an easy translation. Is that the word I'm looking for? From that world into, the music that I really like to do, which is the stuff that I do now. And, all through school, I'd play in, different shows and different things. And then there was the whole coffee shop scene, which was way cool. And I enjoyed doing that. And, then it kind of went from there. And, you play a few festivals and, folks like what you do. And then the next thing you know, you play more, and you play more, and you play more. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And it's a nice hobby for me.
Bill Abernathy, back in the coffee shop days, was that still high school? Was that after high school? Did you go to any college?
When I was in high school, I'd play 2 or 3 nights a week at different places around Kansas City. So I wasn't really so engaged in school. That's probably not a good thing to say to the young guys. I got good grades.
I went to school a bunch of times.
Yeah. But I wasn't so engaged. I didn't see a lot of value in it. And then, I studied music in college and still played through the whole thing. So, then I quit. I quit playing music for a long time. So I got, I had kids and I mentioned my son. He was quite an athlete. My daughter was also quite an athlete. She was a Division I fast pitch softball pitcher. And that is a lifestyle that is not conducive to doing much else other than going to ball games and traveling all over the country, watching them play ball. So I never really quit playing. I never quit writing. I just kind of stopped playing live, and went back to it when they got out of college and started their lives and kind of got their lives going on. I went back and said, I wonder if there's any market for this kind of stuff that I do. So, we made a little acoustic album and put it out, and, people picked it up and they liked it. And, we won some awards and some different things with it. And so we just kind of evolved from there. So.
Well, it sounds like at some point life happened. You had to get responsible, get a day job, get some insurance. A lot of people don't know that when you're a solo musician, when you're an independent artist, you don't have any insurance. It's nice to have a steady gig, a steady day job that can afford you to maybe do a couple of gigs here and there per week. And it's nice to have insurance for the family. It's responsible. You did good. You became a responsible adult. You raised a couple kids, and now you're back in action, man. And now that you're done with the day job, that's great. And it's all about Bill Abernathy, the singer-songwriter. What kind of, I mean, as we're breaking out of this coronavirus, if anybody's listening to this in 20 years and this becomes the time capsule that people listen to at this particular time, we're breaking out of coronavirus. People are getting shots. There's some treatments out there. We're getting back to normal. As we're getting back to normal, what are you doing? Where are you heading?
Well, right now, we were pretty fortunate. Again, we got the tour in right before COVID hit, and when you do one of those, there's always a lot of follow up. And when COVID hit hard and we went into lockdown, I was fortunate that I had technology. technology available to me. So I don't even know how many live stream concerts and that kind of thing that I've done. I've played a lot during COVID. We did this crazy thing. I'm not known for taking requests, right? It's not really something that I'm real comfortable doing, and we were trying to figure out. I live in a historic area of Kansas City called the Kansas City Market, and there's a lot of mom and pop shops and a lot of mom and pop restaurants, and great entrepreneurs and good people that are really a big part of my life. And obviously COVID, you shut everything down, and nobody can get out. So we were trying to figure out how we could help, keep the music going a bit, and then help as much as we could with some of the local businesses. And so we came up with this idea that we called the coronavirus sessions, that I did live in my loft.
Okay.
And, hooked up a bunch of technology and cameras and, all that stuff. And what we did was we took requests, right? And so somebody would request a song, and then what I would do is I'd figure that song out, and I would make a video of it, a live video, just me playing it. And I would post that out on social media. And in return, what I asked was that whoever had requested that song, if they would please support a local business. Now, it didn't have to be a local Kansas City business. We had fans all over the country, right? And so, it was an interesting thing, and it worked out really well. And a lot of businesses really appreciated the support, and it was fun. It was a fun thing. I played songs that I would never have thought to play. I played a few songs that I guarantee I will never think to play again.
Example, pick one. Give me examples.
Oh my God! I got a request from, and it was a joke, I think. But anyway, they were gonna, the person that requested it said, if you'll record this song for me, I'll send $1,000 to Joe Bag of Donuts Nail Salon or something, And so I thought, well, I could do this, and they requested 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad by Meatloaf.
Why not?
Okay?
Lofty.
Now, I am an acoustic singer, songwriter, guitar player, right? And I've now got to figure out how to play and deliver 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad by Meatloaf.
Yeah, so many theatrics and so many changes.
Yeah. Well, the music wasn't that hard. But the lyrics of that song are really, how can I say this in it? I should be politically correct, I suppose. A lot of them make no sense. Okay? There's no sense to them. It's almost like I need something that rhymes with this. I'm just going to say this, and it doesn't matter if it makes any sense or not. And so what I did is I did this recording. It's out on my Facebook stuff. You can find it out there. I did this recording of 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad by Meatloaf, but I did it somewhat as a parody. And I wore sunglasses to maintain my anonymity. But, folks liked it, and they enjoyed seeing it. And it was kind of a fun thing to do. So, it was a fun afternoon to put that together.
Yeah, it's good to get out of your comfort zone, man, and to please a fan. And maybe he may or may not have thrown $1,000 at Jimmy Joe's nail salon or whatever, But you were trying to help out. But that story kind of took a different twist. I thought maybe they were piping your live stream into their various businesses, and people were requesting. But creators got to create, man. That's a creative way of keeping your music alive and keeping your chops going. And because these days we have to be much more than the entertainers that we are. You being the guitar player, me being a DJ, we also have to be our own promoters and make sure that we're out there on social media, because people's attention spans are very, very short. If you're not always in their face, they're going to forget you. Have you ever had that feeling before?
Well, of course, it's been written about, millions and millions and millions of times. Let's see, let me quote some lyrics. This is a Billy Joel song that's called The Entertainer. And I'm now going to try to quote these live, and so I'm probably going to screw this up just as a note to self. But the song says, I am the entertainer, and I bring to you my songs. I'd like to spend a day or two, but I can't stay that long. I've got to meet expenses. I've got to stay in line. I got to get those fees to the agencies. I'd love to stay, but there's bills to pay, so I just don't have the time. But my favorite verse of that, if I can get it out without screwing it up, I am the entertainer, and I bring to you my songs. You heard my latest record. It's been on. Well, I kind of got that screwed up somehow. But there's a line in there that actually talks about our lovely attention span, right? He says he had written a song, and it said he was, again, in the industry, right? And it was a beautiful song, but it ran too long. If you're going to have a hit, you got to make it quick. So they cut it down to 3:05. Welcome to our attention span. We were programmed from the 50s on to have a 3-minute and 5-second attention span. Thank you, Billy Joel.
My favorite, Bohemian Rhapsody, 6 minutes and change. And
exactly.
And Freddie Mercury and the boys decided, I'm not cutting it down. We're not cutting it down. We're releasing it like this. And fortunately, in 1975, they had some kind of power to be able to release it that way, and they did. And they did, and I'm glad that you're throwing stuff out there. I mean, what gave you the wherewithal that you could write music? Were you a poet in school, or is poetry and lyric writing different somehow?
No, not so much different, I don't think, but there is a difference between a poem and a lyric. But I got into it to impress a girl. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? And I sang a song at school at some talent show or something, right, when I was in junior high, and this girl was all about it, and she thought it was great, and she asked me, she said, could you write me a song? And I thought, well, hell, how hard could it be? And then I realized how hard it could be, that's how I got started doing it. Was just trying to impress a chick.
Did you go with the low-hanging fruit and just say her name over and over and over, or did you find something about her and use that as your inspiration? What was your muse?
I'm telling you, it was so bad, right? This song, it's so bad that it has burned itself into my memory, right? Because I was trying to be like all artsy and that drawl and all that, right? And I think it went something like, the sun is rising into limpid pools of perfect light, but I myself absorbed that light with awe and wonder and light, or some crap. It was horrible.
That's Shakespeare meets the Moody Blues, man. That was great.
Yeah.
or in the year 2025 to bring it all the way back. That was good, man.
It was terrible. It was terrible, but it ended up. That was kind of the start of it. And then I wrote a few other little cutesy little, what I would call bubblegummy songs. Baby, baby, baby. I love you, love you, love this stuff. And then after that, I got to the point where I didn't see the value of doing that, because there's a million baby, baby, baby. I love you, love you, love you songs. So I thought, I have interesting things that happened to me in my life. Maybe I'll just write about those, and that's kind of where it took off.
Yeah. Well, heck yeah, you've been all over the world. I mean, is that the inspiration when you see stuff all over the world? I'm glad that there's people like you, and I know that there's a lot of singer-songwriters and a lot of songwriters and a lot of singers. But singer-songwriters, that puts that becomes fewer. But to be able to sing the songs that you've written, are you inspired by the places that you go, the experiences? Do you remember things that you've done, and do you write things down as you see them, or when you get back, you kind of try to formulate everything?
Well, I'm not smart enough to remember everything, so what I do is it's a mess, to be honest with you. I'll have a thought or an idea, and I'll scribble it down on a Post-it note, or I'll send myself a text, or put a note in my phone. As a matter of fact, I have a song right now that started off as a note in my phone, and then I'll kind of get all these these little pieces of paper together. It's a bit like putting together a puzzle, right? And you kind of figure it all out, but it starts off as a total holy hell mess with a bunch of random thoughts that sometimes are so disjointed that they don't even go together, right? But then you start putting it together and you start figuring out, okay, well, if this is what I'm trying to say, how am I going to do that? And then inevitably, you'll remember what happened that caused you to have that thought, right? And it was a story, or it was a circumstance, or it was a place, or it was a person, and then you kind of just let your imagination take off, and off you go, yeah. And then in a while, songwriting to me is kind of like making a stew, like a really good beef stew. You get all the basic parts, which is all these little pieces of paper, right? And you kind of roll them in the crock pot and turn it on, and then taste it every so often, and add a little bit, and add a little bit, and add a little bit until it's done. And that's kind of a bit like songwriting to me. The friends will ask me, they say, how's that song coming? And I'll just tell them it's still cooking. It's not done yet. It's still cooking. So,
man, I was listening to a podcast earlier about Hallelujah, the song Hallelujah. Leonard Cohen, when he first was writing that song, he told, I think might have been Bob Dylan, that it took him 2 years to write it. But no, he had 50 plus verses to that song at points, and whether they were little tweaks or things. I mean, when you're songwriting, does it come quickly? Can you write a song in 15 minutes, or does it always take weeks, maybe months, or is it every song's different?
Well, the answer to that is yes. So some songs come relatively quickly. They don't get tweaked right quickly. But the base of the song, they maybe some of the lyrics and the chorus and maybe a bridge or whatever, that'll come pretty quickly. But then you have to kind of wordsmith them a bit, and tweak them up and put them in the right tempos and candor and all that. But I have a song that is on my Find Away album that's called "Meant to Be," and it literally took me 40 some odd years to write it. It was a song about a girl. Who knows?
It's that same song you were just talking about. What isn't it? That just developed over 40 years.
Yeah, maybe that's the answer. I think it was a different girl, but anyway.
Okay.
I had was friends with this gal when we were in high school, and we had signed everybody's yearbooks, and all that craziness, and it was cute. That was a good time, and we had a high school reunion. And I'm on the committee because I guess they needed a hippie contingent on the committee, not sure. But they did this all on Facebook, and so I kept getting these friend requests from people that I could, I don't remember, it was a long time ago. And so I got my yearbook out and I'm looking through, I'd get a friend request from Joe Bag of Donuts, and I'd look up Joe Bag of Donuts and I'd realize, hey, I remember this guy, right? And I was going through that, and I saw where this one particular gal had written in my yearbook, if she'd, thank you, we had a great time, I'm really glad we dated, blah, 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 and if it's meant to be, it will be, right? And I had actually, at that time, taken one of my little notes, right? And I'd written down a couple of lines for a song and stuck them in my yearbook, okay, and forgot about it. Right, that was back in the 70s, so forgetting was easy to do because of societal pressures or whatever. And I was, we did this reunion thing. It was like a 40-year reunion. It was a long time, and I was going through looking, and I find these words, right, and we're in the midst of recording the Find Away album, and I looked at that and I thought, I should do something with this. So I took them out and I put them in my briefcase, and I was flying to Canada on business. And I thought maybe I'll play around with this on the plane, and ended up finishing it out and putting it on the album. So that one took me 40 some odd years to write.
Amazing. And that was your muse, man. Meant to be. That's beautiful. That's Okay, and you said that you had you have technology. Are you recording everything yourself? Have you always recorded yourself, or do you have studios that you go into there in Kansas City or around the world? I mean, you can give shout outs to people that have helped you along the way. I guess we could start to wind this thing down. I don't want to take all your time, but where are you doing your recording, at home, or are you doing studios?
Yeah, I don't record at home. I practice at home, and I do record my practice sessions. So, but as far as doing the real recordings, the albums and all that stuff, I use studios around Kansas City. The primary one is L.A. Audio in Olathe, Kansas, and he's about to retire. And move on. So I'll have to move to a different studio. But I've recorded in, I don't even know how many studios around Kansas City. So, but no, I don't do the home recording thing. I have a lot of technology that I use when I'm writing and I'm trying to figure stuff out and parts and what have you. But as far as doing the actual recordings, I go into a full recording studio and do that.
But you said did you write on a piano before, and now you write on guitar primarily? Have you ever written on a piano?
Yeah, a little bit back when I was young. And as a matter of fact, I have a song in my head right now that's probably a piano song, and so I'll have to bust out the old keyboard and get through it and work on it. So it just depends on it's just like we talked about earlier. It just depends on the song. Right.
Yeah, talking to different songwriters, trying to figure out what's your process. I hate that question too, but I think we've pretty much figured out what your process is and how you get your muse. You get it from different places. You never know what idea is gonna strike you, and it's gonna come out on paper and then eventually out of your guitar or even piano. But it's beautiful, man.
Yeah. Well, I think the key to me is, and this is something that is a little bit different than some songwriters, is I always write the lyrics first for a song before I even pick up a guitar. Now, they may not be done, right? And they may need to be tweaked, and they may need this, and they may not that, but I always write lyrics first. And, a lot of guys will do that differently, like the Rolling Stones, for example. They're famous for coming up with a great lick, a great guitar lick, and then they just write lyrics around that lick. I'm not that guy. So I write the lyrics and I write the song, and then I figure out, what I think to be a cool lick, two cool licks to put into it. But I actually do always write the story/lyrics first before I even start playing around with any kind of music.
Well, obviously, you're a songwriter rather than the musical, because I guess there is something to be said for the Stones and the Tom Petty and I guess the Rush. Those famous guitar licks that as soon as you hear those, I can name that tune in 3 notes. Oh yeah, I know that song. It's Jumpin' Jack Flash. I get it.
Yeah, I would never say that that's wrong, because I don't think there is a right and a wrong. It's just not that's not how I work, but it's clearly how they work. And they make a lot of money doing it. So, more power to them.
Yeah, you struck a chord in my head when you mentioned that. But, while you're writing lyrics, you must have melodies in your head. And thankfully, you're a musician that can translate those melodies onto a guitar, and put them out to the world. It's beautiful.
Sometimes I've written some lyrics and I've walked away and went to the store or went walking around or whatever, took my dog out, whatever, and then I'll start humming it, right? And it kind of comes to me, right? It's not like I sit down and go, oh well, I need to skip an octave here and this one needs a 5th and that's a 7th, and that's not how it works for me. It's I kind of hear it and hum it. So, excellent. And then off we go. Yeah.
Bill Abernathy, I've learned a little bit about you. My listeners have learned a little bit about you. I don't want to take all day, but I don't want this to be the last time that we chit-chat. As things progress and you have things that you want to promote, in fact, if you have anything on that out right now that you'd like to promote that people can go out and buy, and tell people how to get a hold of you on social media and what have you. And I know I've been throwing a couple things at you. If you want to give some shout-outs to people that have helped you along the way, this is your time right now.
All right. Well, I'll just go with the tune that we have out right now. It's a single. that will be part of a bigger project that we're currently working on. But I have a tune out right now that's called "More Than Meets the Eye," and it's an interesting song. It's kind of a rocker, actually, and it's a little bit about our society today. You know, it's kind of a darker, almost quasi-political type song, but it talks about, you know, a lot of the things that are going on in the world right now. And, you know, United States is a mess. You know, we are who we are, right? And I find it interesting always to look at what's going on in the world today and look at society and try to figure out, you know, what's really going on. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but More Than Meets the Eye is more of a good analogy is the forest for the trees, right? I think sometimes we get so locked into the details of all this crap that they throw out as 24/7 on the quote news stations, right? That we forget that there's a bigger picture, right? And so More Than Meets the Eye is really a challenge to us to step back from the trees, if you would, and take a bigger look, a wider look at the forest, right? To see what's really going on behind all of these things that we have going on. But More Than Meets the Eye has been out since November last year, and it's done extremely well across Spotify and Amazon and iTunes and all that. And there's a pretty cool lyric video that we put out on YouTube. That's done, you know, for an independent guy. I think it's somewhere around, I don't know, 30,000 streams or something. It's picked up quite a bit, right? It's pretty interesting. So if folks want to see kind of one side of some of the stuff that I do, More Than Meets the Eye is the latest and greatest that we have out there. Currently working on the rest of that project. Go back in the studio on Thursday and continue to work. But you can find my stuff anywhere. I always like to say Google Bill Abernathy, and if I'm not the first 5 hits that you get, please let me know, because I'll call Michael at MTS. That's his job.
You were actually number one out of all of Bill Abernathys in the whole wide world, and I think I've had another Bill Abernathy on this podcast about a year and a half ago. And of all the ones in the world, you are number one on my Google search, which is great. And your website did come up, billabernathy.com, and you have all your social media located underneath of that. And I'll put that all in the show notes for sure. But I mean, you're doing a great job keeping your name out there and getting the music out there. But I think that was the one of the few songs that I listened to that was real breathy and bassy with your wonderful voice. But it was a time capsule, or it is a time capsule of what's been happening over the last year or so, and what's going on in the world even right now. It's I can tell that you're a very thoughtful person when you put that together. You were very mindful of what was going on, and you have opinions of what was happening, which is great.
And I've been known to have opinions, but we can blame that on quarantine, right? I've had plenty of time to sit around and watch the news.
That's the problem. We all got time. I think when I first started this podcast, there were about 500,000 podcasts. Now there's 1 million. I think over the last year, it doubled. So I think people have a lot of time on their hands, got a lot of things to say, and trying to keep that creative juice flowing, man. And that's what you're doing, Bill Abernathy. You keep saying we. Is there a Bill Abernathy band, or is it all you?
Well, I have a group of musicians that I play with, and we do band shows, from time to time. But I have a support group, as folks that help me. Michael from MTS Management is certainly one of those, taking care of promotions. I have my daughter, who's a social media marketing person, and she takes care of all that social media stuff for the most part for me. And then, other people that I have a really small circle of really good friends that I bounce ideas off of. And I sent him out the lyrics to a song that we're currently recording right now, and said, just tell me what you think this means. That's always intriguing to me, And so it's a we thing. It's not all about me.
No, it can't be. Even when you go into the studio, you have to have somebody's discerning ear. You can come in with an idea, but thankfully there's people behind that board that have better ears than I do and have been doing it longer than we have, and can kind of chip away at that marble and get that great statue or that great piece of art to come out. And yeah, I'm glad we have collaborations. I work well with others, and it looks like Bill Abernathy works well with others too.
Well, I think it's important to have those people that you know and you trust,
Yeah.
right? Particularly, when I'm recording, I rely on the guys to say, "Man, that just sucks." Let that go. That's not a good idea, And that happens from time to time. Or if you record, I'm not as young a pup as I once was, right? And so some days you're having a really good vocal day, and some days you don't. And rather than sit there and kind of grind, somebody's just going to say, "Hey, Bill, today's not the day. Let's go play some guitars or something," So I think you have to have that, and you have to have that trust and confidence in the people that you work with. It'll tell you, "Hey, today's just not your day, man. Let's do something else."
So Bill Abernathy not surrounding himself with yes men. Oh, you're the best. You're wonderful. That sounded great. And then, meanwhile, behind your back, pew-wee.
Oh, yeah, no. If I suck, I suck. I think I've been around long enough that I'm good with that.
Very good, man.
If it's a bad day, it's a bad day.
Like I said, once you get to a certain age, man, hey, nothing bothers you. Things roll off, and you become a teacher. And once you know what you know, now you're going to teach the next generation, which you're already doing. It sounds like your daughter is already helping you out with the biz, and that's a wonderful thing that you've raised some kids that are actually taking interest in what you do and even helping with the business. So yes, excellent. Bill Abernathy, it's been good talking to you, my man. Go ahead. You got something?
No, I was just going to say I appreciate everybody listening, and if you're interested, go out and listen to my stuff. I think you'll find that it's pretty diverse, right? And so, particularly if you go to my website, you'll see some some different tabs and some different pages that talk about the different albums and the different kind of music that we do. There's a whole bunch of press out there where you can tell, you can. See to people that say, "Hey, Bill, this is really cool," or "Hey, Bill, you suck," because I don't really filter it,
Yeah.
If it's out there, it's what happened, But one thing I will say, I know that we live in an electronics world, right? And everybody's streaming, and thank you very much for doing that. I appreciate the 0.00067 cents I get every stream, without a question. But if you would like. And if you're a little bit more on the audio file, I was listening to one of the other podcasts with another artist, and they were saying, you should get my CDs because they sound better. Well, that's for real. So if you would like, if you're a bit of an audiophile and you like CDs and you get them, you can get them from all kinds of places, but if you get them from my website and order from them, one of the things that we always do is personalize those and put a little note, a couple of pictures, that kind of thing in there, because fans are important, right? And people that reach out to me, that's very important to me, that folks would appreciate what I do and support what I do. So if you get anything from my website, it'll certainly come personalized. So.
Well, I'm glad you have a shop right on your website, because it hurts, man, that you're having to share your money now with Spotify and Apple. But hey, I'm sure you're glad that people do stream, and if you're going to hit the streams, please hit the Spotify and show Bill Abernathy some love for sure. But getting an album, that's one thing that I miss is artwork. Getting a nice 12-inch album with some artwork, and then you open it. If it's a double album, you got some liner notes. You got a little about the author. Like when I was on terrestrial radio, I loved grabbing that album before I was going to spin it. Oh yeah, he wrote this back in 1972, and he was thinking about his dad, and he went fishing, and blah. It's right there in the liner notes. Isn't that nice? A little fodder for me, the stupid DJ that doesn't know much. Hey, I just learned something about this song.
Yeah, the artwork, and we put quite a bit of artwork in our CDs. But here's an interesting story for you. The Find a Way album that I have that had the #1 hit, and it charted for a couple of years. I mean, it had a bunch of songs that really did well. The album cover of that is actually an original oil that was created for me by a guy in Germany, an artist in Germany, and it's really cool. And I have it; it hangs on the wall in my house. And we made that the album cover, and I found it very intriguing that in a lot of the interviews that I did supporting that album, people wanted to talk about that album cover, and we kind of forgot that there was music involved in there because we get so fascinated talking about this really cool, unique album cover that we had. So for the next album that I put out, it was called Crossing Willow Creek. I took a picture of a piece of wood in my house, and that's the album cover. So.
Well, hey, there's different spectrums, I guess. There you were. I'm taking a picture of that dust over there, and that's my album cover. Bam, print it. Well, cool, man. All right. Well, let's park this thing in the garage. I usually finish these things off with last words for the people. These could be words to live by, something you heard a long time ago. Maybe a relative gave you these words, or a mantra you wake up with, or just whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Bill Abernathy, last words for the people.
Oh, I have two, if you don't mind. I was given a piece of advice from my father that I use constantly. Every day, whether it be music stuff or, back when I used to have a job and 9 to 5 and all that, right? And he just very simply told me that if you want something bad enough in life and you're willing to put in the blood, the sweat, the tears, and the toil, you can always find a way to make it happen. That is a great piece of advice from a really special man that my father was. And regarding music, I have another little mantra about my music. So as folks listen to it, remember this little mantra, because if you hear a song that sounds like it was written about you, it may have been. I may have seen you or talked to you in an airport, and you told me a story, and now it's a song. So if you hear a song that sounds like it was written about you, it very well may have been.
Well, there you have it, party people. Bill Abernathy. Man, I knew it was going to be good. I was listening to some of his music, and I'm listening to his nice, deep, full, rich voice. Man, that guy, he'll soothe you. You put that music in your ears, on your headphones, it'll get you like, it's like good chill music, but it's not just chill music. It's all kinds of different music. So listen to the whole catalog. Give him a spin on the digital wheels of steel, if you will. Put Bill Abernathy on your Spotify playlist. And if you have the means, I encourage you to check out BillAbernathy.com and go check out an actual CD. Grandpa, what's a CD? Well, a CD holds your music. You put it in the disc player. What's a disc player, Pa? I know there's a lot of computers that are coming out with no disc players. You can't even play a CD on your computer anymore. I know. I just got older. I just got older just saying that statement right there. You can't even play a CD in your car anymore. There's no CD players. So, but the advantage of that CD is going to have a fuller sound. MP3s and the digital music, it gets compressed to 128 or even as 192. CDs are usually in the 300s. So you get a much fuller sound. The ability to actually hear all the different instruments on your headphones, especially if you got, you spend all that money on those Beat headphones, might as well have some good Bill Abernathy music in your head, right? So take the time and spend the dough. Since you spent a couple $100 on those headphones, you want some good quality stuff going through them, right? Am I right? I'm right. There, Bill Abernathy. Thanks for being on the on the What Makes You Famous podcast. Thanks for chit-chatting with me, man. I learned a lot about you, and hopefully people have learned a little bit more about you as well. It's always good to talk to good people, especially creative people that can come up with an idea right out the noggin and put it on on a guitar or a piano or whatever musical instrument and send it out to the world. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I love that you have all your guitars and they're all named and they're kind of like kids or even spouses or friends. the way you talked about your guitar. So yeah. Thanks so much for being on the What Makes You Famous podcast, Mr. Bill Abernathy. All right, now I'm turning my attention to you, my loyal listener. If you would like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for this edition of the What Makes You Famous podcast. It's Keys Dan, radiowhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.